you know, in the stock market, interpreting volume in operations is of capital importance for investment decision-making. It is at this point that the cluster viewer indicator becomes an important and powerful tool. The indicator was developed with the objective of showing the relationship between volume and price from various angles. Thus, the investor will be able to identify opportunities that would previously be hidden within the candles. The purpose of this document is to present Cluster Viewer, its functionalities, and best practices of use. Using a VAP, volume at price indicator on your investment platform can greatly optimize your profitability. Overview. As we all know, the volume of trades validates the behavior of the price. That is, for large price movements, it is necessary large volume. Thus, in case you can operate more safely, you need to be in possession of a tool that shows volume behavior from multiple perspectives. This was the thought that led to the creation and development of the Cluster Viewer indicator. The tool has 4 basic modules. Times and Trades Display. It is where the operations that are being executed on the stock exchange are listed. It's a lot like the Metatrader's market depth display, but with a few extra features. Offer Book Display. A window where the intentions of buying and selling an asset are arranged. Cluster Display. This is where the information is grouped together to optimize the visualization of price movements and volumes. VAP Display. This frame shows the volume at price level. Together, these modules present a great overview of the asset's behavior. Times and Trades. As stated earlier, this window presents, in order of time, the deals that are currently happening. The Times and Trades module presents a list of the following information: time of the buy-sell order, indication of purchase or sale, price or points, depending on the asset, volume traded in this order. The list described above is presented in color to facilitate the visualization of buying aggressions or sales aggressions. In the same frame, at the same time in the list, a bar chart is plotted to show the magnitude of the volume relative to the other rows in the table. The colors in the list, as well as those in the chart, can be configured according to the user's needs. With the Times and Trades module, you can configure a filter that defines the minimum volume that will be displayed by the indicator. Thus, the operator can focus on the business with higher volume. Cluster Viewer has 2 Times and Trades windows, so you can track orders with large volumes separate from smaller orders. You can open the configuration screen by pressing the gear icon on the upper right corner. This filter is configured on the first line of the configuration window. Just enter the value and press Enter. Just below, you can change the colors as needed. Configurable colors. Background color allows you to change the color of the back panel where the information will be printed. Font color, by, allows you to change the font color to the first level of the purchase aggression information. Font color, sell, allows you to change the font color to the first level of the sales aggression information. Sales bar color allows you to change the color of the sell aggression bar on the chart. Purchase bar color allows you to change the color of the buy aggression bar on the chart. Bar border color allows you to change the color of the border that skirts the bars of the chart. The Times and Trades module also has two more filters. These allow the user to place different colors for larger volumes. Thus, you can highlight strong capital entries. These filters change only the colors in the list based on the volume. Book of Offers. This module aims to present a configurable version of the offer book. As the Times and Trades, this frame presents a list and a bar chart, and there are three information in the list. The type of offer, which can be ask, intent of sell, or bid, intent of buy. The price or points. The volume of the buy-sell intent. Behind this list, the module prints the bar chart showing the magnitude of the volume of each list item. At the bottom of the frame, there is a separate bar that displays the sum, by volume, of the purchase and selling intentions. The value on the left shows the volume of buy intention, and the number on the right shows the volume of sell intention. In the upper right corner of the window there are two buttons. One to open the configuration window, and one to hide the window. When you open the configuration window, the following panel appears. The mechanism is the same as that used for the Times and Trades module. The first part allows you to configure the colors used in the interface. The module has two volume filters. With this, the tool separates the volumes into three levels represented by colors. VAP, volume at price. On the left side of the main window of the cluster viewer is arranged the viewing table of the volumes traded at each price level. This table shows the sum of volumes, organized by price. It should be noted that this sum relates to the total ticks stored in the database, not limited to the values presented on the cluster screen. The colors in this frame are configured along with the cluster panel graph. At the bottom of the VAP frame is a bar chart that displays the sum of all trades that are stored in the database. Clusters window. This is the main frame of Cluster Viewer. Its function is to receive the trading ticks coming from the stock exchange and organize them to offer various ways to visualize the data. This module is divided into three parts. Offers book. This is a bar chart printed on the right side of the frame. Summary of clusters. This table presents various information about grouping that is sitting shown in the cluster board. Clusters. It is the most important information. It is the place where the tool shows the behavior of the price depending on the time, taking into account three types of grouping: by period of time, by number of ticks, by volume quantity. Cluster summary. This framework is time-oriented. The ruler at the bottom shows the date and time of the start of that grouping. In addition to the time indicator, the summary also presents a chart containing three bars. Sum of the volumes for this grouping. This is the first bar on the left and is represented in two colors. One to show the buying aggressions and the other to represent the sales aggressions. The size of the bars is related to the magnitude of the buy-sell aggressions of the other groupings. Thus, a high bar shows that the sum of the volumes for this grouping is greater than that of the other groupings. Inside this bar is printed the volume value for purchase aggressions followed by sales aggressions. Difference between buying aggressions and sales aggressions. This indicator is in the middle of the frame. It is a bar that visually shows the subtraction of the volume of sales aggressions and the volume of buying aggressions. This indicator is also known as delta. The delta value is printed in the middle of the bar. The magnitude of this bar is related to the size of the deltas of the other clusters. It is important to point out that the visual size of this indicator is not related to the visual size of the volume bar. That is, the height of this bar depends on the delta values of the adjacent summary frames. Delta accumulated. This is the third bar from left to right. This indicator visually presents the accumulated value of the difference between buying and selling aggressions, so it is easy to see the imbalance between buy and sell. The value of the accumulated delta is printed in the middle of the bar. As in the delta indicator, the visual size of this indicator is not related to the visual size of the volume bar, but rather relates to the height of the accumulated delta bars of the adjacent summary frames. Both the delta and the accumulated delta are displayed in two configurable colors. This makes it easy to see if delta shows more buyers than sellers or vice versa. The same goes for the accumulated delta. Remembering that this is related to all data stored in the database and not only to the data shown in the cluster frame. In addition to the above information, the summary table can also show delta divergence. There are situations where the candle closes in fall, although there is a larger buyer volume. In the same way that the candle can close on a high with a larger seller volume. This delta divergence is shown visually with a rectangle of configurable color that is printed on top of the delta indicator. On the left and right sides of the frame, there are two buttons. One with the plus sign on the right and the other with the dash sign on the left. The plus sign button increases the width of the columns so that the information is more visible. In contrast, the number of clusters on the screen will decrease. The dash button does exactly the opposite. Cluster frame. This is the heart of Cluster Viewer. It is in this frame that the information is grouped, presenting the price and volume movements within each candle. This table shows the grouping of information based on the criteria defined in the configuration screen that we will see in detail in the next chapter. As stated earlier, data can be grouped according to time, number of ticks, or volume quantity. In the case of grouping by time, the cluster viewer will respect the time frame that was set for the main Metatrader window. Thus, if the user changes the time frame on the buttons of the main Metatrader window, the tool will restart with the values in the new time frame. The cluster, or grouping, can be represented in three ways. The well-known candlestick, bar-shaped, no background image. In addition to the background image, the cluster has a table with two columns. The left shows value of the buy aggression volume and the right being the sell aggression volume. The price range is defined by the price ruler. Behind the table, the tool prints the data in graphical format, giving a quick view of the difference between buy and sell volumes. All cluster colors are configurable. In the upper corner of the frame, there is two buttons that define how the grouping will be printed on the screen. With respect to the cluster graph, it can be printed in three ways. Volumes of buy and sell aggressions left aligned. This is the default mode. Volumes of buying and selling aggressions aligned to the center. And finally, the view of the delta, that is, the difference between the buy volume and sell volume. Centralize the price. This button causes the last price of an asset to be positioned in the center of the frame. Useful when the price is out of the screen. View of the price movement. This button prints a yellow line showing the price movement inside the candles. The cluster frame allows you to do scroll horizontal and vertical. This can be done through the mouse by clicking and dragging, or through the buttons themselves for this, that are placed at the corners of the window. On the upper left corner, the cluster's frame shows an indicator of how many trading ticks have been loaded into the database. This number increments each tick, showing the size of the database. Configuration. When you open Cluster Viewer, the opening window will appear showing the name and version of the indicator. This pop-up is Metatrader's default. In the upper left corner, there are two tabs. The first, with the description common, shows the general data. The second, titled Inputs, allows the user to enter some initialization variables. Cluster Viewer, at startup, needs to know two things. How many trade ticks should be loaded? This number will be the amount of ticks that will be requested from the data provider. It should be noted that not all ticks received are used. That is, the system loads the number of ticks defined by the user, but will only store in the database the ticks that represent a buy or sell operation of the asset. The second entry asks the user to define whether to use tick volumes or real volumes. Remember that if you are trading Forex or future, only the tick volume is available. It is worth remembering that some providers do not have both types, so if the chart appears empty, try changing the volume type. After starting the indicator, the rest of the settings are accessed by the gear icon that sits in the upper right corner of the cluster window. The configuration window is divided into three parts. General Settings column. Color Settings column. Buttons. General Settings. This column can configure Language combo box, where you select the language in which the tool messages will be displayed. Currently available the Portuguese, Brazil, and English. Zoom, price, combo box, where you choose the step of the price ruler, that is, the difference in value between one line and another. Zoom, time, this combo sets the width of the columns. The higher the value, the greater the width of the columns. Line height combo box that defines the height of the line. The higher the value, the higher the height of the line. Show grid checkbox, where you define whether the grid will be printed or not. Point of control checkbox, where you define whether the POC will be displayed or not. Note, point of control is the price range within a candle where the highest volume of trades occurred. It can be a resistance, support indicator, or indicator of turn in the trend. The indication is made through a transparent rectangle involving the volume indicator bar. Delta divergence checkbox, where you define whether the delta divergence will be printed or not. Note, When a candle is bullish, most of the volume is expected to be buying aggression. Or, in a bearish candle, most of the volume is expected to be selling aggression. Delta divergence occurs when a bullish candle has a greater selling volume or, in a bearish candle, has a greater buying volume. In the tool, this representation is made through a transparent rectangle drawn over the delta indicator in the candle summary window. Number of ticks in this text box. You can reset the amount of ticks to be loaded into the database. When this number changes, Cluster Viewer clears the database and makes a new request to the provider, taking into account the new amount of ticks to load. Teams and Trades 1. Cluster Viewer has 2 frames for times and trades. This checkbox defines if the first frame will be shown. Teams and Trades 2. Checkbox where you define whether the second frame of times and trades will be shown. Offer Book. Checkbox where you define whether the frame for Offer Book will be shown. Grouping type. Cluster Viewer can group buy and sell data in 3 different ways. Candle by time default mode, where data is grouped according to the time frame of the main window of Metatrader. Candle by ticks. In this mode, the data is grouped according to the amount of ticks. This amount is set in the text box just in front of the selector. Candle by volume. In this mode, the data is grouped according to the negotiated volume. That is, the sum of the buying aggressions with the sales aggressions. The volume amount is set in the text box just in front of the selector. Final considerations. When starting, the Cluster Viewer indicator uses all available height of the Metatrader window, while, in width, it positions itself to the left and makes visible the last candles shown by the main window. The window can be resized or moved according to the user's needs. In the upper right corner of the window there are 3 buttons. Button to expand or contract the window. Button to minimize the frame. Button to close Cluster Viewer. At the upper left corner of the window there are the name of the indicator and the display mode of the clusters that is currently selected. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that Cluster Viewer can be a differentiator in your investments. I wish the tool can provide you with valuable insights for you to profit from your financial applications.